To John Kay.
The history of public education is punctuated by a series of remarkable documents. In 1880, the Public Instruction Act established the right of every child to be educated in a free secular public school. In 1956, the Wyndham Report created the universal secondary school system. In 2002, the Vincent Report identified the need for substantial reform of school funding, and in December 2011 the Gonski inquiry was published. Each in their own way and their own time responded to the imperative of providing quality education for all children. That is why the Greens enthusiastically hosted here in Parliament House what we believe was the first National Gonski Week event on Monday the 26th of October. The Gonski Report put in words what every public school teacher has known for decades. Funding matters, and it has to be allocated in a way that recognises the basic rights of every child. The panel put forward three great notions that have forever changed the debate. First, public funding of each school should secure a standard of resources that ensures that every student can achieve quality outcomes. Secondly, further funding must be provided to meet the challenges of economic, social and geographic disadvantage. And thirdly, students with special needs must be funded to meet the expectations that they can achieve great outcomes. Gonski is much more than just another program to address disadvantage or boost public school funding, as critical as these have been in the past. It has created an irreversible shift in the commonly held understanding of how the nation's wealth should be allocated to education. It is the genie that can never be put back in the bottle, no matter how hard some politicians try. Because parents, teachers and students in public schools now know what is possible. They will never again have to settle for second best. Gonski's line in the sand is indelible, and it is a game changer. This line was and is the work of the Australian Education Union, the New South Wales Teachers Federation, the Parents and Citizens Organisations, and of teachers, parents and students in public schools who did more than just capture the Labor Party. They have set alight the hearts and the imaginations of the entire population. To do so, they had to overcome the entrenched interests of the private school lobby and their vicious opposition. They had to defeat the absurd myth that money does not matter, still peddled today by Education Minister Simon Birmingham, despite being exposed as a nonsense by the fact of the extraordinary political and public relations effort expended by the private and Catholic school lobbies to protect and grow their public funding. Like the Public Instruction Act of 1880, the Gonski Report and the National Education Reform Agreement have been compromised by the power of vested interests. The resource gap between public and non-government schools will not be closed. The historical inequality has been locked in by the politics of the possible, leaving Australia and New South Wales with an unjust and divisive education funding regime that squanders public funds and rewards privilege over equity. However, despite being constrained by Prime Minister Julia Gillard's obsequious relationship with the non-government school lobby, the inescapable logic of the Gonski Report is that the wealthy private schools should not be entitled to public funding. For the Greens, there never will be a time when the appalling impacts of public funding of non-government schools can be ignored. But the Greens do give a Gonski, and we do so enthusiastically because we know that public school teachers, principals and parents will take whatever they can get and do great things. So for now, the focus has to be on getting the last 2 years of Gonski worth $944 million out of the federal government to New South Wales public schools that was so dishonestly reneged by the federal Liberal National Government. Even the relatively small amount of money that has flown so far is having real effects on school outcomes. At Maryland's high school, learning engagement has been boosted by 14%, and now 63% of their ATAR students go on to university. At Smithfield Public School, the community collaborated on spending the money to address the effects of language disability. Homebush Public employed a speech therapist for 1 day a week and secured learning engagement for students who would otherwise have been excluded. Burwood Girls High School employed additional community liaison officers to engage children from diverse cultural backgrounds. Just like the additional maths classes at Homebush Boys or the 2 staff at Croydon Public who can now focus on developing reading, this is real money making a real difference to students and their futures. National Gonski Week reminds every Australian of what is at stake and how important it is to get every single politician in this country to give a Gonski.